What is going on, everybody? What is crack-a-lackin'? My name is Mike Toledo. In case you have never heard of me or whatnot, well, I'm not surprised either way. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to learn a lot about paintless dent repair, anything and everything from marketing to tutorials, tech tips, PDR tools, this is the podcast for you. This is actually a channel too if you are watching from YouTube. If you want to listen to this podcast, you can actually still do that through Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and you'll still be able to watch the video as well or listen to it. So just getting that out of the way. This podcast 90, woo, you know, I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth. I don't even remember what podcast is. I'm terrible at my own podcast, and I got to put this on vibration because I'm not going to do another take. But Joe Garcia comes on here, talks about his blunder, and I talk about some of the non-perfect repairs, and we give you a tutorial on the breakdown of a repair I did. Joe goes over it with us. You got to listen to Joe's, man, because this guy is as humble as a mofo, and you know, repairs aren't always going to come out perfect, and sometimes you can mess up. It's gonna happen. It is gonna happen if you're gonna push yourself to do that. We'll get to that. Meanwhile, I got Daniel Grom as well that's coming up right after this. He's going to talk about some of these tech tips, these tips that he has for his the tools that he recommends. Matter of fact, I didn't even know they had this one tip he's talking about, but we got him coming on. And by the way, I am going to plug this. If you're looking for a website, a PDR website or an auto reconditioning website, you're tired of friggin' dealing with other people that don't know your market very well, talk to me. There, you can message me, go to the best PDR websites. I handle it all 100% personally, and I'm going to make sure that it's going to be bomb.com. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I've got a lot of other things, and I consult as well in the PDR business as well as training. So if any of that interests you, just contact me, DM me on any of those social media outlets that you see attached down below on the links. Meanwhile, let's get freaking cracking. Right. All right, guys, what is crack-a-lackin'? Once again, we've got Daniel Grom here, and I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, Daniel, because this is a segment that we've been, you know, kind of talking about bringing you on and talking about tools because of that one reason. We are going to start calling this, at least some of the segments, called "I Tell You What," and I just put a soundbite in there, so just in case you know you didn't hear it, but I'm putting a soundbite in there.
I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what. All right,
I'll tell you what.
Daniel and I went over to go see Anson and help them out at an auto body show, and we had a great time as always.
Dude, it was a blast.
My first time going to Anson.
Oh, the new store. Yeah, right.
The new store. And it's mind boggling, dude. It's like, I can't, it's hard to fathom that they've grown like that within, you know, I don't know. It's been unbelievable.
Well, they future proofed themselves with such a big building. I mean, they have too much room, really. But
I don't
in the future. Well, that's what I'm saying. Future proofing it so they can grow and expand into everything. You know, they're not totally utilizing everything. So, and then their parking lot is huge. You know, they could have a big, huge event there and have tents outside and, you know,
well, that's
food truck and all that.
That's what it's for, though. I mean, that's for that's what I know they are expanding that way, and it would be a great event to have, and I'm going to plug it right now too. So stay tuned. We are actually going to be announcing. Oh, I'm announcing it now. I'm not selling tickets yet, but you can plan it and post it on. I got plenty of time. I'll be talking about it. Is Mega Media event April 28th and 29th, and then the Bonanza is going to be at Anson. There's the 30th, which is on a Saturday. It's going to be a perfect paired up event, and I'm excited about it. And if you guys are really interested in knowing how I use my apps, not just I tell you what apps I'm using, I'm going to walk you through, and we are going to boot camp and have workshops. And I'm going to be teaching you personally. I'm going to teach you, I'm going to pull out every trick in the book and show you guys what I do, piece different apps together, make them work. If you've been following me on Instagram or TikTok, you're going to see how I do it and keep.
Are you going to have your photographer there?
I am gonna have the photographer there, David Ricketts. He's gonna be there. Yeah, we're gonna do the headshots. We're gonna do a lot of cool things that you guys are gonna obviously benefit from. And I generally only keep. Well, I am gonna keep it. I only keep it at 30 people max. So it's just too much to try to
You
have
know,
too many
guys,
people.
if you haven't been to one, it's worth going just for the photo shoot. The price of admission, you'll spend more than that to get a photographer that's not even going to be half as good as Dave. I mean, nowhere near. I
Yeah.
mean, just his light system. I think he told me he's got over $100,000 in his
Well,
lighting
what's
system.
cool about Anson is they got a huge place, plenty of
Yeah,
area for us to shoot photographer photos in and out. So I'm
yeah.
excited about it. I'm going to give you guys more details about that. I want to go on and on about it. This is an early kind of announcement, and you might have heard me mention it before, but I am officially announcing it now, and I'll let you guys know when we're tickets are going to be available. So, uh, Daniel, our segment. I'll tell you what
I'll tell
about
you what,
tools. What's
boy.
what tools you going to tell me about
You
or
know,
us?
it's the little things that matter. It's the little things. And wanted to talk a little bit about tips because when we were at Anson, now I'm missing my tip that I was going to show off. There it is. Um, I Mike looks over and says, "What are you buying? What are you buying?" And I pulled up this. This is a an R2. Can't forget the
Put it in
R2.
the
Just
middle,
like
closer. There you go. Wow, it's so small. I think oh, there you go. What kind of camera you got there? It's focusing not bad, dude.
yeah, it's the Logitech.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
Okay, so that's good, but let's go to your TikTok page if you don't mind. Let me take
yeah.
a look. I think we've got something. Which one is it? You don't have any
It's
of these labels.
right the Dent Craft
This one?
R
In the
R2.
middle?
Yeah. Number 3.
1, 2, 3 over here?
No, down
Oh,
right
this
there.
one.
Yeah.
No, there you go. Now tell me about this, dude, because I didn't even know this existed. Like this looks like a micro BB.
So I use this just like a sharp tip, right? But what happens is depending on the angle you're at, you're going to have consistency with this tip where
Uh-huh,
you're
just
not
like
going to
that.
have that consistency with a sharp tip. And you'll see it in this next picture right there. You're really pushing on the side of that whole tip.
Yeah.
So it's not giving you a pinpoint like
Well,
this
especially
will.
if you have a 45-degree angle tool, right? Not a
Yeah,
90, you know?
right. So doesn't matter what angle you're at. And I love this little tip, man, and it pushes great and it's always consistent but it pushes just like a sharp tip, you know. As sharp as if you're working on aluminum, you might have to go to a sharp tip if you're really needed something
What do
really
you use
sharp.
this for? Like, I mean, it's what give me some
On
circumstance.
metal, just on any metal that you just need a where you're going to use a sharp tip, you just get more
I could use that.
consistency out of it. But side loading today, I was in a panel. I was using this today because I needed to get right next to the edge. Like in this picture, this is the car I was actually working on. I was right on the edge, and so I had to get right into that corner, and it gets you right in there. And it's always consistent with the push, and it
I
just
don't know why I didn't take those tips with me or any of the small stuff with me. I think you even said, why are you sending it? You could fit that in your bag." And literally
right.
I had barely any room, and I'm kind of bummed because I have to bring you on the next week too because we got would have you should have talked about your light, dude. Did you get your light?
Yeah, I have it right here, man.
Oh, you
I'm
dog.
going to talk about it. We're going
All
to
right.
talk about it.
Okay.
But let's stay on tips for a second
Okay.
here,
I love
because
this tip though.
yeah,
What what's
the
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 number? What's the number of it? What is it
it's
called?
R2, R2D2. Yeah,
That's badass, dude. I like it,
yeah.
dude.
And actually, next is is the VIP, which
Middle?
is this, the middle top. Yeah. So these are tips that he already had, but I called him. I called him up and I said, "Look, I like to use these on my blending hammers, but the edges were a little bit too sharp." And I go, "I need you to bull them over a little bit, make them more forgiving. So when you're striking with the blending hammer, that if you're a little bit off, you're not going to put a nice line in the panel when you're blending." And so he made these tips, and now he has them on the website, and it's called the DG series.
I love that tip right there, that one.
Yeah,
I've used it already, and it's kinda same scenario as you're mentioning. If you're striking a little bit not off level, you're still getting the same contact.
yeah, and it's just a slightly different version of what he already had. It's just he softened the edges just to make sure it's just forgiving, and for blending hammers, it's fantastic. You know, so
It's cool. I
yeah,
like your little, like, just showing, like, what you're doing, like, this little clips right here, I know you probably have some music going to it, but I don't wanna play it
yeah.
and blast them. But I like that tip. What tip is that? That's just the DG series? It comes in 2 or just 1 or what?
Yeah, it's the DG series. It's on the if you go to his page, it's on there on the second page. You'll see them. It's
So
DG
where does
series.
this shine the most? On a rail or just the normal blending? I
Everywhere,
mean,
dude. I
yeah?
use this thing everywhere. Um it's kind of my I use it I use this also as an extension, and then I hit it with my hammer.
Mhm.
Um, I do that a lot, and then I use it as a blending hammer as well. So it's a combination.
Is that
On
is that the
both DG.
heavier carbon tech one, the one you just showed?
Yeah,
Okay. I haven't seen
and
that one. Is that a special edition Daniel Grom one right there? 'Cause
now this one was it Bryce? It might be a Bryce hammer.
oh, the other one? No, not bad.
Yeah,
I have all of his hammers. I don't have that one. That one's got a little
this
stamp,
little one.
but yeah, I don't have that one. But, yeah,
I forget. He
you
yeah
guys were
he has it
nerds.
on his website. You don't
We're
have them
nerds.
all if you don't have this one then.
No, no, I don't. You got something
And
over.
this is an old hammer, and yeah, just
Which one?
converted it.
Which one? Show me again. Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, the one we were just showing. Okay,
Yeah, we don't mention that guy's
okay.
name.
Um, what else?
But,
What else you wanna go to?
um, and then do
Here's
the
neat.
so the
Number 4? Number 5?
yeah, number 5, yeah. So here is an example of what they're doing over at Anson. So they took these and
Match made.
they updated them and they made them a little better. And then it's if you compare it to the VIP, and the VIP is a little bit flatter.
Oh, I see the difference between the one's got a little bit higher neck on it and the other one. Yeah, because my caps kept falling off on the match grade, the early match grades.
Yeah. But his see how his is flatter on top?
Yeah.
So you're not gonna push through,
With the
when you're
cap.
putting a cap on it as much. Um, and then
So
the
which
new
which
one,
one's newer? Which one's newer on that
on the
match grade?
left, the
Oh,
new
okay.
yeah, so the caps sit on there a little bit better,
Yeah, 'cause yeah,
but that's the little detail Anson did, on
I like the
improving
match
them.
grade, the new match grade. Do you happen to have any of those shots of that? The match grade, Pee-wee? And he's coming out with some new ones too, and newer peak ones too, so those look freaking exciting, man. I can't wait to check
Yeah.
those out when they're finally done.
I don't have any, of them, any video of it or anything like that.
So,
They're great.
I little secret, I sent Anson something that
Oh,
I suggested. I'm not telling them, I'm suggesting, and they're the machine guy is super excited about it, dude. I'll tell you off camera,
okay.
okay?
I
But
like it.
it's gonna do it. It's that if it works out, it's gonna be a definitely a big change and an upgrade for whatever you guys are using. Okay, so
Cool. I
this
like
looks
it.
good. I actually like the VIP one. I use that one quite often, actually, with a cap on it, with an R4.
Yeah.
So,
You,
and you're
you
right.
get a little bit flatter and it doesn't push through as fast. I'll use that on motorcycle tanks when you got really soft paint and you're trying to be really
Yeah.
gentle.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Yep.
especially like on the decals.
Yeah.
The decals are even softer.
I
Yeah,
just,
I've
you know
got
what? I'm getting motorcycle tanks down really, really good. I mean,
right.
working
It
on this.
just the more you work on 'em, the easier it gets for
Well,
sure.
because you know what, and I thought the thought process on this is, well, not the thought process, the real process on this, Daniel, is watch your be aware of your initial pushing or tapping.
Yeah.
Like, be in the moment. This time you really need to, like, not think about, your vacation or what you can have for supper, or just like, you got to think about, all right, let me spend some extra love on these first 5 to 10, 15 pushes, so I can get some clean metal movement, so I don't have to go back and spend 2 hours cleaning up what I could have prevented earlier on in the beginning. And
Right.
this goes back to these type of tips, tapping down. You can put an R4 on that stuff, this stuff that you are showing right now, even the cleanup work with this thing right here, this
Right.
R2, you know. A lot of guys try to over push with a bigger tip, and they cause way more work for themselves. And the same thing, they'll go too sharp too soon, or go too big too long.
Yep.
I You're right. I love these tools. What else is on your list here?
Actually, I wanted to talk about the light that
Mm.
you kind of talked me into, and I want to thank you for talking me into this little buddy light. This is from uh, PDR Solutions.
Pro PDR Solutions.
Yeah,
Yep.
Pro PDR Solutions,
I
and
overlooked it. I didn't overlook it. I just didn't really pay too much attention to it at the show, and I should have. But we really got to test it over at
I
Anson.
did overlook it,
Uh-huh.
and then you were buying one, and I go, oh, maybe I should get one, and it was something that you said. You goes, this is a great cross checker. And I went, "Oh," light bulb went off, and that was it. And I can't tell you how happy I am now that I did buy it.
You've been using it?
Yeah, and for that reason, it's so perfect as a cross checker. Um,
Yeah, because you don't
because
have to worry about getting a huge, bigger light in the way and working around
right,
it, right?
yeah, and it actually I got lazy today on a big dent. And I just grabbed this, and I was like halfway pushing through, and I'm like, I should put my big light on here, but this thing was working good. Honestly,
Show it.
you could
Show it.
just work
Let me
with
see
this
it.
light.
Show the camera. Show the back of it. Here. Yeah. Yeah, it's got 3 lights, right? Well, power light and a dimmer and a brightness, right?
Yeah.
Those are 2 dimmers, right? The yellow buttons
My wife is,
calling you.
yeah, I
When you
gotta,
can home for dinner.
yeah, exactly. She always calls at the wrong time. Um, yeah, so it has a dimmer on and off. It might blow out. Yeah,
It's bright, dude.
it's really bright. Let's see if I can turn it down.
No,
Yeah,
no,
you
it's
can't
too
see
light.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've used it. I can't wait to get mine. Mine should be here, I don't know, maybe
So,
Friday,
I mean, it's got
Saturday.
metal hinges.
Uh-huh.
Um, It's got
Yeah.
this little,
It's got a
it's
magnet on
well
the back
built.
too,
It's
right?
really well built.
It's got a
It's heavy
magnet
duty.
on the back
It's
too, right?
yeah, and it's a USB-C charger, USB-C, and I just charge it up, and it's gonna.
I
I want a second one for my truck. Just as a backup in my
what do
vehicle
these
when I
run?
do.
What do these run?
I think it was
$145 or something like that, right? Like
what's it?
140, 150, somewhere around
I think
there.
something like that.
Yeah. And
Too
what it
bad.
does, ladies and gentlemen, I put like me and I wish I didn't know, Mark Jackson, he was there. He's like, I got some pinstripes. I said, put it on, Mark, let's do it. And we put some pinstripes on it, and we put it on a vehicle, and it was money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's it I was worried it wasn't going to be bright enough, but
Oh
those
no,
suckers
it's way bright.
are bright. Which one did you get? Did you get the warm or the cool? It looked like you got the warm.
I thought I got the cool, but
You said you wanted the cool.
yeah, no, I did get the warm.
Yeah. Well,
It
it
was
doesn't matter, right? It's still
no, it really doesn't matter to me.
yeah,
I don't really care.
yeah.
But yeah, it's actually a really smooth. The only place that you're not going to be able to use the magnet is obviously on aluminum
Aluminum.
panels, but
Well, I've been already trying to think about
right.
how would I mount that? I mean, now they got to come up with something, another version down the line for when the cars do.
Little suction
Majority
cup.
of them go aluminum, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but that's pretty cool. I like that segment.
But as a cross checker, it is brilliant. I mean, it really made a difference. Today, I used it on 2 different cars, and put it on a horizontal cross check, and both the dents I was working on were kind of complicated ones, and it just made the job go way faster because I was cross checking, at, at the same time,
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, Daniel,
yeah,
I mean, we got to get on to our next segment. I know you got to get back to
yep,
dinner, so I'm going to let you go. All
yeah.
right. And
I appreciate that. We coordinated our shirts.
that's right. Yeah. I do like these shirts, man. I've been wearing this a couple times during the week, so whoo, got to change it now, dude. So
And also, you know what? The last thing I'll talk about is his little tabs. I'm loving his little tabs work so friggin' good. Um,
yep.
they're pulling stronger than any other small tab that I have right now.
I agree, and I think the other argument that other people are having is I stretched mine, I broke mine. Let's
I haven't done that.
I did. I mean, I was yanking for mercy, man. But I'm not complaining. Okay. Me and Craig had a long talk. I've been
Well,
talking with Paul Corden. I mean, these things are commodities, man. And you
yeah,
know what? You can't expect the tab to be as strong. You're gonna give up some stuff. I mean, hey,
he's actually already reformulated it.
I don't care if he does or
Yeah.
does or doesn't, really,
Well,
honestly.
he sent me 4 sample packs, A, B, C, and
I did
D.
too. I touched them,
Yeah.
they all broke on
Yeah.
me. So but
Actually, C worked really well for me. So
they it doesn't matter though, because I was pulling this rail and I was yanking and they did their job. They didn't break the first time. They lasted probably about 10 to 15 pulls. I mean, that was pretty, and I was yanking with a slide hammer and it kept stretching, stretching, stretching. Finally it snapped. But listen,
I usually use a mini lifter on
well,
small
not on a
rails.
rail, you're not going to use a freaking mini lifter. Even
Yeah.
at the mini lifter, you're still gonna stretch it.
Used the electric mini lifter.
Oh yeah, Mr. Oh the what, oh yeah, yeah. Could have. But anyways,
Yep.
so we'll get onto that topic later. I'm not going to get too much into it. We're going to move on. Daniel
All right.
Grom, have a
All
good
right,
night,
buddy.
evening, and we'll talk to you guys later. See ya,
Take
dude.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys, what is up? What is crack-a-lacking? Joe and I are on the mics. What's up, Joe? How you been, Mr. Garcia?
I'm good, man. I've been good. How about yourself?
I've been doing really good, man. Went to Anson, was out
I
there
saw that.
helping them out with their auto body convention they went to, and it was very interesting. I learned a lot from bodymen, what their issues were, what they want. They really do want to get into PDR, like not full blown, but they
Yeah.
want to get in. They just want to know the basics, the fundamentals of PDR, to help them become faster and flag their hours and whatnot. And I think that's where I think Kiko's actually trying to bridge that. I think everyone who owns tools now should think about, or tool company should think about, more of the body guy, the guy who hates his job, and he wants to consider, making that jump over, so
The guys that used to hate us too, right?
yeah, you know what,
I gotta
exactly.
throw that out there.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's because they didn't understand us, right? They thought
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it goes.
Nah, man.
That's a whole new can of
Dude,
worms.
I always have to bring up the dark shit now. The
Well,
negative stuff.
that's reality, though, dude. Like out there, right? But
Yeah.
that's our temperament, right? Joe, if anything, dude, you're the one that freaking like calms it all down, dude. You know.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
So we're talking about bleep ups. So I was.
Yeah. One today.
Stuff that's happened, like stuff that could go wrong, and stuff that we don't get out 100%. And I want to let you techs know that that is reality of PDR. You're not going to glass every repair, especially if you're challenging yourself. Joe and I and others like you out there really try to challenge yourselves, and you're going to fail. You're going to fail. I think what really happens, though, and I don't want to say fail, okay? You're going to learn, right? You Joe, right? We learn from,
and you'll fail.
Yeah, from those fails. Let's not sugarcoat it. You fail, but you're going to learn.
You
right?
lose.
Yeah,
but you win.
You lose. Round 2. Fight.
Exactly. So you lose. Game over.
So Joe was kind enough to share a video clip that he did on a Mercedes. We're gonna show that. I'm actually just recently did a repair that I could have thought I could have done it better. I had some, I had 2 customers waiting for me after that to do their vehicles. They dropped their vehicles off. Another one with 2 people were waiting. So, but that's no excuse, right? That's no excuse. I'm not trying to make excuses for you guys. That's a schedule problem. That's not a skill problem. Right. So, but I also want to talk about, Joe, is reality, PDR reality. Everybody tries to post the most glassed repairs, and I don't blame you for doing that. Not doing that at all. But what happens when you get that customer that sees all those perfect repairs, right? And he's expecting to see the same for his vehicle, because every customer thinks that you're capable of doing a perfect job for them as you did for others. That's where you run into the gray area. If you don't really kind of educate your customers about, this is 90%, this is 80%, or I didn't do this perfect, or at least show them, hey, this repair looked 100% or looked close to it, but it wasn't. So I don't think we do enough of that besides talk about pricing with the customer and all that stuff. Yeah. I think I got my video now, dude. So you just kind of interrupted there. I know. But what do you think, Joe? What do you think about that opening of that discussion, what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, well, I'm as guilty as anyone is trying to just post my perfect repairs, and Lord knows they're not, and I've said that on here before, but I don't necessarily go out and advertise that, Dent Evo is, does imperfect repairs, and recently I started showing, texture, especially on really difficult repairs. I think it's important on really tough, complex repairs to show the people what it looks like when it's done realistically. Okay, this is a real deep spot and you're going to have some texture here, and this is what I mean by texture. And that's powerful when you're trying to explain that to somebody in person. Anybody who's listening to this right now can especially if somebody who's a PDR tech can relate and understand where you got somebody in front of you with the dent, and you're trying to tell them, look, I can get this out, but this is not going to be perfect right here. Here's what I mean by imperfect. And how do you get them to visualize that? Well, what better way than to show them in a video? Here's what I mean by imperfect, But the one I'm going to show you today on mine is really imperfect. So I think people are going to question my sanity possibly, but we'll see.
Well, let's take a look. And you titled this, I'm not going to repeat it, but if you look right here, like in the bottom corner, Joe mess up. So
Joe mess up. That's a nice way of putting
this. This looks like a very sharp stretched dent. Good. I mean, look at the curve of that garage, like going out, like, and look at the line. See, this is why this looks like fog more, and this looks like a line. See, I see the difference between nice guy and Joe Pesci. You know what I mean? Lines are Joe Pesci. Hey, you had a fire. F you. Where's my money?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a good way
These
of putting
lines
it.
are. So talk about this repair if you don't mind. Set us up for this.
Okay. So really super deep dent. The customer had sent me pictures back in June, to which I had replied back then. And honestly, it did not look that deep, obviously, to me then. And I, if you can believe it, like a ding dong, I gave them a quote, just $100 window of between 275 and 375. And once again, I could have done more like a Paul Corden approach and given a $400 window, leaving me some room, some wiggle room, because it was a heck of a lot harder to talk them into, paying more after I saw it, after telling them between 275 and 375. And I'll stop you right there. I started, and I have to throw a disclaimer out there, Mike, to the listeners. You guys, I didn't film the entire process of this repair. It's going to jump into the after, and you'll see the heavy texture. I did use, I started by using a glue tab, because I wanted to see if I can bring out some of that pit. Mike and I had really good luck with those Dent Reaper tabs. That's what you're seeing there, that purple little tab. We were using it on some really deep hail dents on rails on a Volvo, and I thought I'd try and bring up some of that pit with a mini lifter first. But the problem I was having was the mini lifter feet were bumping into that wing on the trunk.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get a good pull, so I tried using the slide hammer, and it brought it up a little bit, but not enough to do much. And that's no discredit to the tab itself. It was just a really deep dent that I found out after by pushing on it, both with like an ultra rod with an R4 with a cherry tip on it, both with one of those, and also I tried using a really sharp marked circus rod to try and just bring out some tiny little pushes into the center first to try and release some of it, and none of that worked, dude. It was really it was going to stretch. I knew it was going to stretch, so I broke out my Power PDR box.
What is that, dude?
That is okay. So you see there is the grounding magnet that's connected to the grounding wire, the grounding cable to this is the Cam Auto car body heater, auto body heater, they call it. And it's basically their version of the Power PDR box. I put a flat washer on there because I wasn't getting the ground. It was the little magnet wasn't making contact with the flat surface of the inside of the trunk.
Oh, okay.
But and I apologize because I threw this together. I didn't edit it up, so. But
no, this is like, and you jump right to it. So
yeah, here's the after.
Does it have the same wand?
I should have showed that. It's similar. It's very similar. It's got a copper. What do they call that, Mike? It's like a wand, like the same copper wand and it's gray at the tip. I really should have showed that, man. I'm sorry about that. This was last minute that, we put this together.
That's like that, dude, Joe. That's okay, man. That's okay. So you went through the trunk and sanded it down and put the ground
I had
down.
to sand part of it by hand, the part underneath the dent. The other part where I grounded it, I was able to use a drill with a sanding disc on it. But I burned the paint, dude. I burned the paint on it.
I was going to say, where is the part that you say that you really messed up? So you said you burned the paint. Did you obviously have it turned up too high, or what was the deal on that?
This
dude, looks great.
Well, it looks flat, and that's another thing we'll talk about. It's like, you can see right there, man. Oh God. Yikes, man.
There's an eyeball in there.
Joe's a hack, everybody.
Shut up, dude. You know what, Joe, and you guys out there 98% of you would say, I would never have shown that, dude. Okay. in their heads, they're thinking that. Like, and like, not
Yeah.
saying that they're shaming you. I'm saying they wouldn't have the balls to do that, dude. Okay. Ladies
Or
and
maybe they wouldn't
gentlemen,
be
this is
stupid
why you
enough to
guys
do it.
listen to this podcast and watch it. So we mess up so you don't have to. Okay.
That's right. That's right. Because
This
we're going to
is-
learn from
this-
this. How not to do this again.
This is it, dude. Like, and these guys go, man, these two mofos mess up more than anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah,
They
no
break
kidding.
windows, burn paint, friggin' like,
Yep.
you know,
That
listen,
we do. We're like a bad buddy movie, Mike.
bad buddy.
Like Will Smith and was it Martin Lawrence?
Yes. Listen, Joe, this is reality, man. This is life, man.
Yeah.
This is, you know, you don't think body men mess up? You don't think, let me ask you this. Do you think Bryce Kelly messes up? I've had
No,
talks.
never. I don't think so.
Yeah, you don't think he messes up, you guys? Like, I know a lot of you do know who Bryce Kelly is. He's a fantastic tech. How do you think he got that good? Do you think he was able to, he just became successful at every repair? No, he has probably better luck than most people do, but he has had his share of mess ups. That's how people learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Bryce is an explorer, man. He's like
he is an explorer,
like freaking you know, explorer of our trade, and he's gone out and beyond. And I know he's screwed up before. You know, we all have. You know, you have a platform though to show all this stuff, and you're bringing me along for the ride. So it's kind of my responsibility to show my F ups too. You know.
But look how flat it is, though, Joe. I mean, that's hard to do.
That's what I was gonna say, dude. I was really impressed with the that body heater, the Power PD. We'll just call it Power PDR Box, but that's not fair to call it that though, because that's a
Can-Am's version.
This is the Cam
heat shrinker, metal shrinker, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's called the Cam Auto body heater, and it worked brilliantly. I did burn the paint on it, and that's why it looks all boogered up. And then I have some pokes there, you know, because I was trying to clean it up. And then there you can see I had sprayed. This was after I sprayed zinc coating to cover up the scratches from the sanding marks. And then I put on a little square of 3M sound deadening material on there to hide because I think that looks better than the zinc, you know.
Oh yeah, dude. Like, and where do you get that at, dude? What is that? Just sound dead? Like, is that one stuff that stereo shops use and things like that?
Yeah, it's what the stereo shops use. They use usually like an aftermarket stuff. I think they use like it's called Roadkill or something like that, or an Automat or whatever. But this is 3M stuff, so it sticks really well. I got this at
Dynomat. That's what they call it.
Dynomat. Yeah, Dynomat. That's it. But this one is actually 3M. It's called, or it's made by 3M, and it's just like a part number. But I got an Auto Body Tool Mart. Basically, I got their little catalog here. So a lot of people already probably know about this, but this is a good company to buy stuff from. Like that's Auto Body.
I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't think I caught it. So.
Auto Body Tool Mart. Sorry about that. There we go. Auto Body Tool Mart. So it's just they send a little, once you order something, they'll send a little catalog to you. But you can buy that and like foam for the brace, like brace foam and brace glue. You know, that's helpful to have around to keep stuff like that. Let me ask
you this, Joe. I'm trying to think like a viewer, right?
Okay.
Here's some questions to answer in your order, whatever. Okay. What was that the cost that what was the cost of that repair? And, you know, I know you're always honest and whatnot.
Yeah.
Did you underestimate the cost?
Yes, I did.
And what did the customer's reaction when you burned the paint? Like how did you get out of that? Or how did you explain that? So I guess you can answer that in an order.
Okay. So here's the deal. I had stated before, I underestimated it via text back in June when they first sent me the pictures. I told them a pricing range between $275 and $375, which was a huge mistake. I didn't know it at the time because it didn't look that deep in the pictures. famous last words, right? I know everybody's been in that position. So once I get to see it in person, it was a lot more challenging to tell them what it really should cost. And we ended up, I told them also that I don't know if I can even fix it. It's very deep, and it could possibly make matters worse. I started to try and backpedal out of it and not, do it, and tell them that I recommended Body Shop, which I ultimately did. Well, after all that's said and done, they said they just didn't want to take it to the Body Shop. Can you just do what you can do with it? I can. And I ended up at $425, and they ended up, they said, okay, go ahead. And I told them also, and this is what's crucial, is I told them, look, this might get worse. I might make this worse because if this thing stretches, it's so deep, it's not going to look good, and they thought about it, and there was a couple, husband and wife, and it's like, okay, well, Joe, we trust you to, do your best. And I think a lot of that relies on what they've seen of my videos, mm-hmm. And that's the tricky part, is because like what you said already, it's like, okay, we're showing these videos that show this perfection, and the lines but what you're getting is different in this case, but I think the point is that they allowed me to experiment with their dent. And I used that word too to them. This is going to turn into a science project, an experiment here. What I can't tell you is if I can get this thing flat and, looking decent for you, you might have to go to the Body Shop anyway, and yeah. I think it's important I think it's important for us to recognize our limitations, our own limitations. I mean, there might be I'm sure there's somebody out there who could have done that, much better than I did. But I think it's important that we have to find that when we're getting in over our heads, and we need to be honest with that person, the owner of the car, like, look, this is what we're dealing with here. Like, I know damn well that nobody in my area would have even touched that. It was just so deep, and in my local area, there's nobody fixing that kind of stuff. And if they do, it would look a lot worse than that. Basically, I got paid by the customer to experiment a little on their dent. And I think that I question right now, I wonder if it had been that difficult for me if I had came in with a higher estimate, dude, I don't know.
I don't think so, Joe. I don't think so, dude.
I think I could have.
You and I get in deep conversations sometimes. Sometimes we wish we could record these conversations, but I'm trying to treat this just like as a normal one. If someone else was listening to us and sitting here, and other texts like we do meetups, nobody's gonna. Unless you were charging way lower, then maybe the motivation of you trying harder, or see, it's a bad dent, dude.
Yeah, it's a bad dent.
It's
right?
missed. You could easily. And you didn't. I'm just saying, an average tech could easily misunderestimate that, cost-wise and skill-wise. Like how are they going to attack that repair?
That's true.
And
that's true.
I think that's part of the business, man. We come in, and that's what another thing that makes PDR so great is that for the most part, we're successful at our repairs once we get the ball rolling, we get comfortable with what we're doing. But every once in a while, right? And we were talking about this before, PDR is like weather. It could change on a dime, a repair on you.
Yeah. Because something can go wrong real quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that happened to you right here, right? I mean, you were trying to get it, and it started stretching on you, right? The clouds were coming in, and all of a sudden there's hailing, and then it starts snowing.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to deal with that, dude?
Right. And I knew before I even did any pushes on it that was going to oil can, that it was going to stretch on me. And I'll be honest with you, it never even did oil can, if you can believe that, because I already made up my mind. I had put a couple pushes on it after I put that glue tab on there, which really did nothing because it's just that deep. I did a couple pushes with a marked circus rod. Okay. And I was trying to use like the Shane Jacks technique to try and just put tiny little pushes at the very pit, close together without making any, push marks, which that's kind of a weak spot of mine. Like deep dents I think are a lot of people's weakness in PDR, but that's one of mine. And, so I tried that first. And then I tried a couple pushes with the R4 with a cherry tip on an ultra rod. And I didn't even bother pushing anymore because I knew that it was just going to stretch it. So I pretty much early on committed to using the Power PDR box. And part of my issue is that I'm not that experienced with that thing. I've used it a few times with limited results, which were more, not any, discredit to the machine, but mainly to my inexperience with it. And also whatever dent I was using it on. I know I used it on a couple jobs that were just far beyond, all recognition. They were just, I should have left them alone anyway. But it was kind of like I was experimenting with a customer's car, which arguably you shouldn't do.
I disagree. I thought that we never experimenting with it. Or now we're
with a dent.
I wouldn't call it. There's a difference between experimenting and saying, okay, I'm going to hope for the best. And that's what you try to do. Okay. That's basically what and you got permission from the customer.
I did get permission from them. Yeah.
And I think that customer in at the end, you're saying that you got 400, was it 425? At the end of the day,
and they gave me a $50 tip too. So, I mean, I think it's a matter of context. In the old days, I would have said, you know what, I'm not going to charge you for that. I would have swallowed my pride and all that, and I'm not going to charge you for this. But now it's like, dude, before I get into hot water, I think it's just best to just tell them, look,
that's learning.
Here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm at, and this is what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Well, look, that goes back to the value of your time. At first, that's what you're doing. You're giving up your time to learn. But now the circumstances are there. That's another thing too. You, as a veteran PDR tech, you understand the consequences that you will run into these issues. You might not have expected it to happen, but you can expect that it will happen at any given point. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's part of the territory. Mm-hmm. But as you see it, you either make a choice. We usually know when we're coming to that bridge, right? We see that bridge, we're like, oh snap, this is either going to oil can, I've got a brace in the way, or I'm gonna have to make an access point to do here. I'm gonna have to get, and now it's starting to turn for the worst a little bit. I could either tell the customer, hey, I've got to charge you more, but there's some more risk involved. Yeah. And with that reward, do you want to do it? I'm the same with glue pull. I don't even hesitate to tell the customer, I could pull your paint. Yeah. It's probably not going to happen. But what I'm trying to say is I don't want to pay for your repair, right? Yeah. That you probably would have went to the body shop anyways. So I think that risk, you have no shame on that. You shouldn't have no shame on that, Joe.
No, I don't, man. Years ago I would have, that used to mess with me. But at the end of the day with this one, I mean, I did let them know what they were getting into, and they also just didn't want to have to send it to the body shop. I saved that car from the body shop, so.
Yeah. Cause that would have been the whole trunk, the spoiler, the blended quarter panels.
Yeah, they were happy with it. And, the truth is that what do you call that? The fin on the back there, the spoiler, it kind of hid my ability to see just how deep the dent was in the beginning. And at the end of it, it kind of hid the imperfections that were there too. So we had that kind of going for like a double-edged sword, But
any advice you could give to somebody with a repair like that, if they came across like that? No, how would you start it? What would you instantly pull the Power PDR box situation thing out, or what's your call on that?
Okay, so I'll start with anything that you come across that that looks. Okay, let's start here. the assessment is so important because we have to be able to see when we're potentially at a risky scenario, or whether it's a risky dent to begin with, or it's beyond our skill level. And so we have to be able to be just upfront and transparent with the person we're dealing with the customer or prospect, and say, look, this is way deep. It could potentially get worse. So that's number one. But as far as technical stuff, dude, I'm still learning to use that thing. And I was going to ask you, or your listeners, like, because I actually touched that thing before I really did any crucial pushes on the dent. I had already committed to using the Power PDR box, and I started shocking it before I even did any real good pushes on it. And it seemed to work really well, because what happened was then I went ahead and started pushing on it with an R4 with the cherry tip. I had put away the sharp tool at this point, and I thought, well, heck, I'm just going to push with some, something with some surface area to it, and I started pushing, and it was like pushing a nice stable dent. It wasn't, popping in and out or anything. And it started to, after I got it flatter, and then I zapped it a few more times, and that's when I burned the paint. And by burn, it didn't brown it up at all. And you can kind of see in the video, but it looked like a touch-up, like a wad of touch-up paint on right in the middle of the dent. That's exactly what it looked like. In fact, the customer's wife saw it, and she said, "Oh, did you have to touch it up?" And I said, "No, what that is." And I explained to her, I showed her the box that I used. I showed her what I did underneath of it. I basically told them I joked with them afterwards, and they were laughing because I told them I turned your trunk into a science experiment, because I literally addressed the molecular structure of the metal with this machine, as odd as that sounds, and because it was so deep. And that's how we get the metal to keep from popping in and out. But it also heats it up, and it got the paint hot enough to make a little wad on the surface of the paint. It didn't brown it up. It didn't turn black.
And that happens. I mean, it's basically how I use it is I turn it way, way down, and I have to just kind of work it up. The latest, I have a Power PDR box, which is one of the, I think they came out with another one, but the one I have is the one that I think it's at least the third generation, and that sucker is very strong. I mean, I burned paint the first time I used it because it's twice as strong. I wasn't expecting it, and it just zapped, and it can burn paint. Another thing, a tip on that, Joe, too, if you're interested in that, is take a wet cloth and take a couple zaps and then cool it between it, and
really,
but you'll see, you'll see a little bit of zaps in there, and you'll start seeing the metal moving. I like to start a little bit outside and barely touch it, and kind of what do you call it? Cinnamon roll it.
Okay.
And get that cinnamon roll motion.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So that's one my take. So
would you start zapping it before you do any pushing on it, or do you not do that until you already have an oil can situation?
I probably would already kind of somewhat almost have an oil can, because that's the way I've been doing it. I don't want to make an oil can, but it does do a pretty damn good job unoil canning an oil canning dent.
Cool.
So
cool. I was really impressed with how stable that metal was, man. I did, I started at the very lowest setting, and I got nothing. The next notch, and got nothing. And it wasn't until I got it to I think it was like almost halfway point where it started doing some, I could see it zipping through the through the paint, a little bit.
Got hot.
It got hot. And but I'll tell you what also was working against me, and which I'll address next time, is I'm going to do a better job of sanding off the area underneath the dent, because here's the thing, I couldn't get my grinder in there, my drill with the disc, the sanding disc in in that part, because it was under the structure, the bracing and everything, So I had to use my hand, and I put some lacquer thinner on the e-coat. You know, it was painted. It was a blue paint of the Mercedes
good
underneath.
idea.
And I sanded it the best I could, but I was sanding it with a pretty coarse disc, basically the disc that I was going to use to grind it with. And I was doing that, and I don't think I got enough paint off of it. But I also gouged it a little bit underneath, like grooves. So I think that was kind of fighting what I was trying to do. I think my little zapper, the electrode, that's the word I was trying to use earlier about the probe, basically. The electrode wasn't making full contact everywhere under the dent. And so I wasn't getting a good reading. And when I finally did get a good reading, I melted the paint. So,
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a better way of saying I melted it as opposed to burned it. So
that's happened to all of us who have experience with that. We've zapped some paint and we've gotten a little ballsy on certain things, and sometimes you're 100% right though. If you do not clean or have that surface prepped well enough, you're not going to get good contact. You're going to get very inconsistent contact, and it'll accidentally force you to turn up the dial unnecessary. And then you're overpowering it. And then once you go into the part that you did sand it really well, it works twice as good, and it's too good, and it burns the paint.
That's what happened. And I think that's really what happened. So the learning experience for me was sand it off all the way as much as I can. And what do you recommend for that? Like when you're in
more some.
Yeah, like a wider area, right?
Yeah. Did you have a 90-degree angle drill or a regular drill?
I had a 90. Okay. No, I mean, I'm sorry. I was using an angle drill. Yeah, so a 90.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I couldn't get that in there though. It was just so
I know
deep in there. I could get my hand like my fingers were basically, sandwiched in there, but I was sanding like that. But
you know what we need is like one of those whale tail, like it looks like a butter knife like this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like we used to use to put in the bracing and get it out. But we need to put some sandpaper there. Have your handle down here, and so you can rub it off on those tight areas right there.
Yeah, there you go. Or maybe
Joe,
even some paint. Like paint remover. I remember where you could spray it on there or squirt some in there and just let it remove the paint.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, man? I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I was going to say we're going to move on to the next dent, dude. Do you mind?
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
So, Joe, this is the dent I did actually today, which you guys will see Thursday or whatever, but it doesn't matter. I did this repair today. Actually, no, this isn't. Is this the one? This is not. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, is it? Okay. Is it? Let me see here. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay. So what gave me a hard time, Joe, is that edge right there by the light.
Yeah, I can see why.
It is a little stretched over there in the top corner, and I got part of it out right here. So I was using a soft tip here to work this out. I was very aware, Joe, of my pushing. All right. I did not want to cause too much texture. I didn't want to overstretch areas here. I was just following the crease, as you can tell, and over pushing enough where I know I'd want to get the center out of it and start working here. But this was almost an oil can effect. If you notice the top corner up there, or the top left, it's almost out of frame. Yeah. There's a little bit of a pinching up on the top left corner.
I see it. Yeah.
That was threatening to say, hey, I'm on an oil can on you. And if that had a problem, I probably would just walk from this. It wasn't going to be worth it. So this dent did not come out 100%. Right. Okay. And this is why we're showing this too. This is kind of a tutorial too, I was still going with a soft tip, a 90-degree soft tip tool, watching the reflection just to make sure, but there was still in the middle of the dent, you can still see a bow, right? I didn't want to tap that down yet, Joe, because I thought that might oil can. Okay. So I was continuing to push, tap down a little bit, and then keep going here. I was just testing the water. As you can see, I wasn't really like staying on anything. I was moving the board and just going about this. Excuse
Okay.
me. Sneezed.
Bless you.
This tap down right here, by the way, it's very inconspicuous. That is a weighted tap down. That
Really?
base is Dent Craft's base.
Really?
It is fantastic, Joe.
Okay.
That tap down is money.
And it's got a screw on tip.
Yeah, that screw on tip is the dead on dent ballistic tip.
Ballistic tip. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here, Joe, and you know how to read this board. I flipped it, just did a little pressure releasing, and I'm not sure if I went and got a sharper tool. I think I did, because obviously I'm hitting that center pit in there, and hopefully let me see if I can get this a little bit more bigger. That doesn't really help much, dude. So, as you can tell, I was trying to keep my push poke marks to a minimum. I mean, I wanted to close up the center, but again, the part that was really giving me a hard time, Joe, is the edge. What do you do on this? What's your go-to on this?
Yeah.
Trying to like finishing and closing the centers up right here in this area.
Let me ask you first, Mike, the upper corner and the upper left-hand corner, the spot that is like kind of out of the, it's beyond the reflection of the light of the lines.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was there a crown there?
Yep. I tried to tap down that crown too. And it was telling me, hey, don't force me. I was like, okay.
All right. You felt like the whole thing was going to cave in on you.
Yeah, I did. So, I was like, all right, let me rebuild some of the metal in this area.
Okay.
This is the most cooperative part, and it was still stubborn, as you can see. I'm just trying to open up the edging and the border of that with this tap down. Dude, Joe. Yeah. And I'm talking not to you. I'm talking to our listeners or people who are watching. If you don't have a good tap down and accurate tap down, and your tap down's not kept up well and it's uneven, or you switch your tap down from pushing to tapping, I can't imagine your repair being super clean. There's just no way. Yeah. And this, as you can tell, I'm really preventing micro tap marks, because for a rookie or a newbie, Joe, that could take them anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes to clean up one mistake.
Yeah. Right. You get those.
I do go to a softer tap down on R4, because at a certain point I didn't want to force it. So I wanted to pillow some of the crown. And so that's why I would switch up the tips a little bit too different. So you see I shallowed out that deepest part at the end of the crease right there.
Yeah. Well, you're stabilizing it. What do you mean by pillow? The crown?
Just making it more shallow, more not as like this, but kind of like this. So I can bring that center up a little bit more, and then at the same time kind of helping the crown out here. Yeah. So it'll kind cooperate.
Evening things out.
Yeah, so I get that kind of motion, and this is you can see it doing that. This is a step-by-step video I did. I tried to capture as much as of the meat pushing I could, and you can see I had a 90 degree soft tip. I would have preferred maybe a shorter. I would like to see them make a more stubbier 90 degree, for close range.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a smaller length one like this, but I'm losing the leverage right there. So, okay. Let me go back up a little bit here. This part right here, let me go right here. Let's see if I did make an access point right in this section right here. It's because I had no choice. The leverage was crappy. Taking that tail light out was crappy. I mean, I don't know what is going on with these lights, man, these days, man. But man, it's becoming a chore and a half to take this stuff out.
Yeah,
So
it's not getting any easier to take things apart. And then sometimes just pulling a tail lamp doesn't even get you where you need to,
no, no. A lot of dent guys think that you have to learn how to do these big nasty stuff and then you'll get good at the small stuff. It's the complete opposite. You have to learn how to finish the small stuff super clean, because if you make sense of it, Joe, you can chime in anytime, dude, and put your say on here. It's because when you take that big dent, every big dent comes down to a small dent. And can you finish those small dents, those areas? Because I say it's like your whole repair is a war, and you break it down to smaller battles. And in order for you to win the war, you've got to win the battles.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. That's like how you were outlining Shane Rose's his Camaro fender that he did.
Yeah.
You were doing the play-by-play. It's like, you're gonna start here and you're gonna flank the, from the rear or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of funny.
And that's how I think of everything. That's the best way to teach. Like I was teaching my students so they would get it, and going, oh, okay, let me go over here. Sometimes this battle needs your help over here, and then you can jump over here and then do that, and then all of a sudden you're starting to win.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, because when you think about it, I mean, we're working with really light gauge sheet metal, whether it's aluminum, steel, or high strength steel. It's light gauge stuff. And, especially when you get a complex repair like the one that you're showing right now, you have multiple areas where there's little kinks here and little crowns there and deep spots here and there. So you're almost like having to go and work your way around the dent and gradually bring stuff out.
Yeah. And the challenge with this repair was time. Okay.
Yeah.
I mismanaged my time. And what do I mean by that? Well, I scheduled this customer to come in. I scheduled him for about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It turned into, I think, an hour and a half. And it should have took maybe 2.5, 3 hours for this repair minimum.
Yeah. And then it starts overlapping.
It doesn't look like it, but I was rushing. I was looking at the clock every 10 minutes just to see where I was at. The light took me forever. It got me behind because it took me 20 minutes just to take the light out. Yeah. And that pissed me off. And then I'll show you a tech tip, because towards the end, when I was trying to reach these screws and my magnetic one was too short, and I was just like, man, if this screw comes off and pops off and I can't reach it, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna lose my stuff.
Yeah, I've been there before.
And so right here, Joe, I thought it was gonna oil can. I thought it was like, oh man, it's stretching too far up, right? And I'm not getting the center pit in here. So. Yeah, I will do a tutorial on this, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are, watching, if you're a Dent Trainer member, I'll be zooming in and stopping and explaining a little bit more than what me and Joe are talking about, or not. We'll probably explain as much as we can here. We'll put this play-by-play here. Do you use a pick in this situation, Joe, when you're trying to like get that last little bit out right here?
Man, I'm trying to think of that. Like, it's hard for me to say, because I'm only seeing one dimension right now. I'm only seeing from one angle. And I mean, my instincts tell me, I probably would do what you're doing, but I think I don't know, man. I could be totally off here, but for some reason I'm thinking that I would have focused less on that main part of the dent and just bring it up gradually, just a little bit, and then go back to that area above it. Yeah. But you mentioned, and that's why I had asked you, what's going on up there? And you said it's kind of, you kind of felt like it was going to oil can on you. And, that's just something that's a perspective I don't have, because I wasn't there, but I would have liked to have brought in, I feel like could have tightened up the whole thing from up above. But I'm armchair quarterback at this point.
Armchair quarterback.
I mean,
I love it. I mean, these type of repairs look like they're, I wouldn't say cakewalks, but they look like they're
Yeah.
They look like
Don't they
you know,
though?
hey man, if I can get to this dent, I'm gonna knock this out in an hour,
Yeah.
and we'll go to go. And this is what we're talking about earlier, like the challenges of things that we're expecting, but we don't want to expect it, you know.
Yeah.
And when it does happen, we don't panic.
Mhm.
We just shall I say, we adapt, right? And
That's
then
right.
we try to make the best of it. Now you can see a little better shot of that. Okay,
Yeah.
this
It's
is where
coming together.
I start going over there now and going, okay, are you going to cooperate for me? And I
Okay.
start
So,
trying to get this part out, but soon enough I start going to the top. So,
so you cross check on
I
the
cross check
area
like a
that you're.
mof. I had to.
Yeah.
Did you notice when I was trying to tap down earlier from this point of view, it wasn't really wanting to cooperate that way. So I turned the board going parallel with the high, and that gave me a better roadmap to tap. Because if I would have tried to kept tapping from like this, reflection going horizontal, it's not horizontal, horizontal, I would have put micro lows everywhere in it, especially when I turned it back to cross check. So
Yeah.
to the viewers, you have to read these lines. Joe does lines, I do lines. Regardless of which reflection you're doing, you have to cross check a lot, you know. And then here you go. I'm actually just trying to explore, see if this will work. It didn't. It was cooperating just a little bit, but instantly I was like, okay, let me tap this crown down, and I'm going to move it over. Okay, move my reflection over, and see if this is going to cooperate. I think I start going to an R4 because I realize maybe I'm putting little lows in it. I'm always paying attention to see if that tap down is going to create any lows.
Yeah.
Did I say that friggin' weighted tap down is money?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to try that out. Dentcraft makes that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where's the weight at on it?
The
Is
whole
it just
thing.
the whole thing?
The whole thing.
Really?
It's awesome. You don't have to strike as hard.
Yeah.
Not that you're striking hard
Good to see
anyways, but you really
Yeah.
don't have to strike nearly as
And
hard.
are you using a regular hammer with that?
Yeah, I
Mike?
was
Are you
using a 10
paddle?
ounce snap on hammer,
Okay.
mainly because I was lazy and I didn't want to go grab my other one, my paddle. So that's what I was thinking here.
Okay.
It's really touch and go with these type of repairs, Joe, as you know. I was like, all right, let me see if I can push more of this metal. You can go with a sharper tool, but as you know, your sharper tool you have to push a lot more smaller, tighter, closer pushes than you do with the soft tip, and you can push more meat out with a soft tip at this point. So
yes, on a gradual low like that. And do you think you were fighting a little bit of the? It looks like the fuel door is right there, and you've got two, big transitions there. So
yeah. Do you see where the last pinch is, or the where it's tight on the line where it was low, where I was tapping and all that? That there's a fuel line. There's a brace around that fuel opening.
Yeah, I could
see. So that was partially help bowing that area, because we all know when the metal gets hit, right, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And if it can't go nowhere, it kind of almost bounces back. You know what I mean? And it gets stopped there. What you don't see in any of these clips is that I got eye level, and I had to move the camera out of the way for me to really look eye level, and then I could see more things than what you see here. Okay, obviously. So and this is where I started going, okay, let me stop messing around. I'm getting behind. And I said, I'm going to start tapping down a little harder, but without jeopardizing making little lows with this R4. So
you have like basically several different surface tensions in that little spot that you're working on there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So areas that are hollow and will cave in on you real quickly. And you put that same amount of pressure elsewhere, and it's barely going to tap it, or it's going to, make it worse.
Right on. That's exactly right. I mean, we all know you could be an inch or half inch from the area that you're originally tapping. All of a sudden it just caves in, left to the left of that, or vice versa. You're hitting, and all of a sudden you make a micro low because it's so strong and there's a brace right there, because you hit against the brace. Right. This was more like that, but more of the softer areas, and it got tighter towards the gas lid. And up here, yeah, by where I'm tapping, that was a very stubborn area. It did
It
not
looks
want to go
like
down.
I can see when you're tapping on it, it's not really budging.
No, no. And you can see I'm hitting harder because I'm not using the weighted tap down, but you know,
Right.
I didn't want to keep switching tips. So,
Okay.
you know, or switching taking the tips off and putting it on the
Yeah,
Dent
I see.
craft.
I see. You know,
So,
and there's another factor here too, Mike. Is like you already mentioned, you were kind of in a hurry, and so you know you got people scheduling, and I think you told me they schedule themselves. Do they on
yeah,
at your
and
shop?
that's the part about having a schedule too as well. The system I have, that's the only hiccup. If you don't pay attention to your own schedule and you don't look at your schedule and going, oh shoot, this is going to be a big repair, and you don't block yourself off in time for the next one to book or block it out
Then
so
you're
that
overbooked.
next one won't book, then yeah, you can get yourself in a pickle. And then I had a walk-in in between these two right here.
Yeah.
So I had to tell the customer to come back in about an hour and a half later. And then I realized he was only a half hour after my second one. And I was like, that's not, and then he comes in 45 minutes early.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it was, it was a little bit stressful. And
yeah,
luckily
for
for the most part, it was coming out, it was cooperating, shall I say.
Well,
but
listen, the reason why I brought that up is because that's everyday stuff right there that, you know, we deal with and your listeners deal with. You know, both we got the technical issues, you know, the stuff that can go wrong, and which I guess you can title this whole episode about what can go wrong, and a lot can, but not just on the technical level, but on the scheduling and, you know, the interaction with the customer, you know, and these are things that we all have to deal with at some point and figure out ways to do better at them, I guess.
yeah.
You know?
And actually I was using that new Anson tool right here, dude. And it's called, I don't know if it's new, but it's new for the tequila line, and it's kind of like that. It's like a blade tool.
I saw that.
You know,
that looked like it's pretty effective.
It was very effective. I really liked it. I thought it was very accurate here. And that's another thing too, is listen, I can be in the moment, and if I was here by myself at the shop, which I was, but if I didn't have customers in the waiting room and people waiting to get their car done right after this one, I would be in the moment. This is where I get in the moment, just slowly just take my time, get across there, and you know,
grab a cup of coffee.
Yeah, like, you know, get on the phone, but whatnot. But you know, this repair might seem like I'm going slow, but I'm actually I'm going quite fast. I actually go slower than this. I'm a slow repair tech, Joe.
Me too.
You know, I used to be the slam bam, thank you, ma'am, at the dealerships, but not here at the shop. It's a total different pace. And I think that's where you're going to benefit huge once you get your shop. You're going to see it's night and friggin' day, dude.
Really? Yeah. And that's why I ask these questions too, Mike, about, you know, the scheduling and stuff. You know, I think about it like, how can I streamline my whole program? You know, one way is a lot of guys are allowing, you know, having a system where the customers can make their own appointment on, you know, through Google or whatever app or software they have, you know, online on the website.
And what has changed my outlook about customers booking their appointments is that if it's qualified already and the estimate has been given, I give them a link to schedule, and they have to put $100 deposit down, and it has been working like a charm. We had Danny Espinal on here, you know, maybe a month or two ago, 2 months ago, and I did it right away. I said, you know what? There's no reason for me not to do that no more. And I've had one customer not show up, and they didn't even reschedule, and I kept their $100.
Wow. Wow. Nice. Nice.
But it just solidifies that you're serious, the customer's serious, and you got a business to run, man. You know, you don't have time for people. Well, I think I'll come. Well, I'll come in, and then they don't show up, and you booked a whole day off or whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially as complex as the repairs are getting now, and sometimes they take longer. You know, and a lot of times they take longer, and you know, you block out that whole day or whatever, or half the day for a repair, and then they freaking, flake out on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, man. So I don't want to keep, I'm not going to go through this whole thing right here. We're not going to wait. I get a really sharp tip and I start cleaning it up big time. Okay. So here's my tech tip here. If I can get to it here, and this is where I just couldn't, I was getting to this last bit right here. This part around the edge of that tail light where it gets to the edge, that sucker was tough, man. I had to get this little stubby nylon tip and push, because if I used a metal tip, it was going to start poking it up, and I didn't want that. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to go crazy. This was not a perfect repair. You can still see there could probably still be some work done by the edge, but I did go in there just a little bit more to touch it up, but you could see that the edge wasn't absolutely perfect. And I did go with a metal tip at first, and I made a little poke mark in it, dude. Like if I can bulk it up, just a tiny, oops, I'm going to back it up one more time here. It's hard to tell in this one, but bottom edge, let's see if I can get it here. Right there, right. You can't see my mouse, but it's right in that black area right there. Ooh. No. But other than that, the repair came out fine. I think the total time was about close to an hour and a half, but 20 minutes of it was pulling the taillight out. And this should have took about 2.5 hours, 3 hours to really dial it in, So, and this is what I ended up doing. He had the light too, so I just replaced it for him, and we did that. So you can see it wasn't absolutely perfect near the edge. So this is what I used to grab. I put some Glexo.
Yeah. To grab the nuts.
Grab the nuts.
Grab the nuts.
To grab the nuts. And then and this is what I did too. I put a little sequence together just to show kind of like how I, in general, how it went. Okay.
Nice.
Joe, I know you do these type of repairs all the time. And I just wanted to see what your take was. And I wanted to show people, don't be afraid to tell your flaws. Joe showed his flaws. I showed my mess up about 3 months ago when I burned the paint on the Ferrari. This is what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. We're just trying to help you not do the same thing as us and go through that. And hopefully it helps. So
yeah.
What do you think, Joe?
I think it came out great, man. It looks clean. I'm looking at those reflections, and it's spot on, dude. So good job. And after a buff, you get those scuffs out.
Yeah,
I'm sure the guy was super happy.
Oh, he was way happy. Yeah.
And let's face it, my customer was happy too. So I mean, it really, there's that too. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and don't forget, we're keeping people from having to paint their car, and that's worth something too. So don't forget that. But yeah, that's what we want to do, man. We want to show the truth, and I think that I'd rather inspire people, to try harder or to do their best, or, rather than the opposite.
We're not done. We're not done, man. I'm not done with this podcast, but I've got past repairs I haven't shown that didn't come out great. I'm not proud of, but I think it's going to benefit you guys. I think as a customer, if a person who maybe watch this, or maybe somebody who wants to get into this, either way, they see that the realism of it, and what we do and go through,
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like when you're taking on really challenging repairs, you're going to encounter some snags, man. It's going to happen, or you could just take cherries, all day, but I think when you want to what we're capable of doing now. And, arguably we should, sometimes there's things that we should leave alone, but really though, I mean, if the customer is giving you the opportunity to try it out, like, well, hey, let's see what we can do with this. But you got to be careful. It's a slippery slope.
That's right. Joe, I used to be a runner when I was younger, and I was real competitive. And when I was in junior high, we ran against the high schoolers, and they wanted to show us like how to run, and I showed up in my Vans, and the other kids were laughing, and I killed them. Like I broke records at a 4:29 mile back then in 7th grade. So
wow, man.
By the time I got to almost high school, right? I was going to go to high school. I was undefeated in track, at least cross country. And I quit. And I said, I don't want to do it anymore. And I remember going into the coach's office. He's like, Mike, they want you to run. You're great. You're going to do fantastic. I said, Coach, I just don't want to lose, man. I'm afraid to lose. And he goes, you see that sign back there behind me? You see this poster right here? And I looked at it, and he says, if you're afraid to fail, you're afraid to succeed. And I remember that, dude. Now, did it still coach me into running? No, because I had more passion technically in basketball. Okay. But I remembered that throughout life, and PDR is like that, dude. So, I think a lot of guys who don't do a repair like what you just did, Joe, or worse, or anything that frightens them, because it's uncharted territory for them, and they think that, well, what happens if I fail? What happens if I crack the paint? What happens if I do this? What happens is that you learn, and that you get better, and you grow. And that's the moral of this whole story, of this whole podcast, is Joe and I want you guys to get better and learn from us, and obviously prevent as much mistakes as possible. But you're going to make them, man. You're going to make it, especially if you're pushing yourself to be a better technician.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Anything you want to add to that, Joe, before we leave?
I think you said that quite well, my friend. I think we're good. I talked enough on this one, man.
I think we did pretty good together, man. We put ourselves into it, man.
Yeah. No, it's good. We'll do that from time to time. I'll share my, and that's why I kept it. I didn't just delete the videos, because we might
Joe,
be able to.
It takes balls to show that stuff, dude. And like I said, you listeners and viewers, we're not done yet. We've got way more stuff to show you guys. Are we proud of it? No, we're not proud of it. But you know what? I'm proud to show you, and Joe and I are proud to show you what you can learn. That's basically what it is. Okay.
That's it.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, Joe, again for coming on again, as usual, co-host, man. He's a co-host. Don't forget to follow him, Joe Garcia, DentEvo.com. You can follow me as well on Instagram. We have all the links and all that stuff down there below. So if you want to follow either one of us, please do. All right. Talk to you guys later. Catch you on the next one. See ya.
Thank you.